Breaking news from outer space, truth and fiction, same embrace. Lance and Gina lead the way, decoding myths from day to
You know, we get all sorts of fascinating stuff sent our way for a deep dive, but the material you shared with us this time, well, it's really in a league of its own.
Yeah.
We're talking about those persistent trails you sometimes see in the sky, the ones that fuel so much speculation. But forget the usual suspects,
Okay.
because the sources you've given us propose something truly unexpected. They suggest these trails aren't the work of shadowy government agencies with mysterious chemicals, but rather
Well,
cotton candy.
cotton candy. Right. What's immediately striking is the shift in tone from the typical, chemtrail anxieties.
Oh,
Instead of concerns about heavy metals or biological agents, we're presented with something seemingly innocuous, almost delightful even.
right. Like fun.
But as we delve into these sources, you start to see how this sugary premise allegedly becomes the foundation for a rather elaborate, and according to the narrative anyway, quite concerning scheme.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, get ready for a wild ride. Based on the documents and reports you've provided, we're plunging into the alleged cotton candy chemtrail conspiracy. We're going to focus particularly on the supposed central role of Sugar Daddy.
The candy company.
Yes, the world's largest cotton candy producer, apparently, and a surprisingly sticky web connecting them to dental associations.
Wow.
The story woven here is one of clandestine agreements, concealed motives, and a world being subtly sweetened for reasons that go far beyond simple enjoyment.
And it's important to acknowledge the nature of the evidence these sources allude to.
Yeah.
We're talking about mentions of investigative journalism, supposedly leaked internal communications, and accounts from individuals claiming to be whistleblowers. This kind of sourcing is, well, pretty typical of conspiracy narratives, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It positions itself outside of mainstream explanations and suggests a hidden truth that only these alternative sources can reveal. Our goal, like you said, is to unpack this extraordinary claim and understand the narrative logic that underpins it, even if that logic seems, well, unconventional.
Okay, so let's dive straight into the heart of this sugary claim. The fundamental assertion, as you've likely gathered, is that commercial airlines have been secretly equipped to disperse microscopic particles of cotton candy into the upper atmosphere.
Just spraying sugar.
I mean, just picture that for a second. Massive airliners with hidden compartments filled with spun sugar. It's a bizarre image, to say the least.
It definitely captures the imagination. And the sources are very specific about who they allege is the prime mover behind this. Sugar Daddy.
Right, the candy giant.
Their supposed motivation isn't about influencing the weather or anything like that, but rather about cultivating a widespread, long-term craving for sugar. The idea, according to this theory, is to essentially create lifelong customers.
By introducing sugar dependency from a young age. Sneaky.
It speaks to a very long-term, almost generational business strategy, if you believe the narrative.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The timeline presented suggests that keen-eyed observers supposedly started noticing an increase in these persistent contrails, sometimes even with a pinkish tint, all the way back in the mid-1990s.
Mid-90s. Yeah, okay.
While mainstream scientists were, and still are, saying it's just water vapor condensing, these independent researchers, as the narrative goes, were uncovering something far sweeter and potentially far more sinister.
The alleged composition of these trails, according to the sources, is aerosolized sucrose, basically very fine particles of sugar combined with food-grade dyes to achieve that occasional pink hue. The crucial element here is the assertion that these aren't natural condensation trails, but a deliberately introduced substance. That distinction is absolutely key to the entire conspiracy narrative.
And it takes a turn that the sources paint as quite manipulative. There's this theory within the material that these artificial sugary clouds are intentionally steered over areas where children spend a lot of time, schools, playgrounds, parks.
Oh, wow.
The alleged intention being to subtly encourage sugar cravings in this particularly vulnerable demographic. It's a really direct and, if true, quite disturbing form of influence.
Yeah, that alleged targeting of children really amplifies the sense of unease within the narrative. It taps into anxieties about the exploitation of the young and the pervasive influence of corporate interests on their well-being.
Definitely.
The sources repeatedly emphasize this contrast between the independent research uncovering this and the dismissal by mainstream science, which is, a common tactic in these theories, presenting an alternative explanation as the only true one against a potentially compromised establishment.
And I found this particularly memorable. One of the sources mentions that scientists within this narrative even came up with a name for this phenomenon, the Great Sugar Fall.
The Great Sugar Fall. Nice branding.
Right. This idea of a constant, gentle rain of sweetness falling from the sky. It almost sounds like something out of a fairy tale until you consider the potential health implications laid out in these sources.
That term, the Great Sugar Fall, is a very effective piece of narrative construction. It takes a potentially alarming concept and cloaks it in this almost idyllic imagery.
Yeah, it makes it sound harmless.
It can make the underlying claims more insidious, perhaps, as the initial impression is one of whimsy rather than danger. It's a way to maybe bypass initial skepticism.
Okay, so we've got this picture of a sugar-coated sky orchestrated by the seemingly benevolent sugar daddy, but the story takes a decidedly dental twist.
Okay. Here we go.
And this is where the alleged cooperation of the airlines supposedly comes into sharper focus. The sources you provided detail this whole alleged involvement of dental associations, and it's all about the benefits.
Precisely. The core claim here is that significant financial contributions, basically large sums of money, were flowing from major dental associations directly to the airline corporations.
A payoff.
It's presented as a clear exchange, a mutually advantageous arrangement that goes beyond simple corporate partnership, according to these documents.
And the supposed motivation behind these payments? Well, according to the sources, it's a rather direct and frankly quite cynical one, an insidious cyclical business model, as one of the documents allegedly puts it.
Cyclical.
How so? The idea is that by having this constant rain of microscopic cotton candy, you're inevitably going to see a massive increase in tooth decay.
Cavities.
Exactly. Which, of course, translates directly into a perpetually growing customer base for dentists. More sugar, more cavities, more patients.
That introduces a particularly unsettling dimension to the conspiracy. It's no longer just about one corporation, Sugar Daddy, seeking to boost its profits, but also about an entire professional sector allegedly benefiting from a decline in public health.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
The leaked internal memo from the International Dental Consortium, or IDC, which the sources present as a key dental organization, really underscores this alleged motive.
Right. This memo is portrayed as almost irrefutable evidence, supposedly stating, and I quote, "Increased atmospheric sucrose exposure correlates with a 37% rise in pediatric cavity cases. We must continue investment in airborne dispersal for long-term revenue security."
Wow. That's blunt.
I mean, if that's a genuine document, it paints a very damning picture.
It certainly does. However, it's crucial to remember that the same sources also mention the IDC's swift dismissal of this memo as satirical in nature.
The classic, it was a joke defense.
Right. This highlights the contested nature of the evidence even within the conspiracy narrative itself. Proponents would likely argue it's a cover-up, while independent observers might see it as, a fabrication or just satire.
And then we have the introduction of another significant player in this alleged dental drama, the International Dental Association, or IDA.
Another one.
Yeah, this is depicted in the sources as another powerful and secretive organization supposedly in on the scheme, also keenly interested in ensuring a steady influx of patients needing fillings and other dental work.
So multiple dental groups allegedly involved. The sources really emphasize the alleged efficiency of this supposed business model from their perspective, Sugar Daddy and these dental associations.
Makes sense from a purely cynical business view.
It's presented as an almost perfect system. Sugar Daddy sells more cotton candy to be aerosolized, airlines get paid to disperse it, and the resulting increase in cavities guarantees a continuous revenue stream for dentists. It's a closed loop of sugary and ultimately profitable misfortune, according to this narrative.
Now, to bring a human element into this rather sticky situation, the sources you provided include whistleblower accounts.
The insider perspective.
We hear the story of former commercial pilot Robert Swirlsworth, who describes these sugar bays within aircraft filled with condensed cotton candy fibers ready to be released into the atmosphere.
Sure base. Seriously.
I mean, the image is almost cartoonish, yet the alleged implications for public health are quite serious.
Swirlsworth's testimony provides a crucial element for any conspiracy theory. The insider willing to break ranks and reveal the supposed truth. His quote is particularly evocative.
Yeah, what did he say?
"They told us it was harmless, just a little sweetness for the skies. But when I started seeing entire playgrounds covered in a thin, sticky residue, I knew something was off. We were creating sugar dependency from the sky down.
Chilling, if true. That personal account adds a layer of perceived authenticity to the narrative, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It grounds the fantastical claim in a supposedly real experience.
And it seems the initial public reaction, at least as presented in these sources, was surprisingly positive in some quarters.
Really?
Positive.
Yeah. Parents apparently noticed their children smelling faintly of candy and their clothes having a slightly sticky texture, and some even likened it to living in Willy Wonka's world.
Huh. That initial positive reaction serves an important function in the narrative, though.
How so? It shows how something seemingly innocent or even delightful can be used to mask a more concerning reality. It plays on our tendency to sometimes not question things that appear pleasurable or harmless on the surface.
Good point. But as we've already discussed, that initial sweetness supposedly didn't last long, with a subsequent rise in cavities becoming apparent.
Right, the dental downside.
And predictably, according to the sources, dentists became the beneficiaries, while scientists who tried to sound the alarm about atmospheric caramelization and airborne tooth decay were conveniently ignored or dismissed.
And why were they dismissed?
Allegedly due to the financial influence of dental associations on research funding. Talk about a potential conflict of interest.
The silencing of dissenting scientific voices is a recurring theme in many conspiracy narratives. By suggesting that established institutions are controlled by vested interests, the theory can maintain its plausibility even when faced with contradictory evidence from those very institutions.
Right, it protects the core belief. So how does this whole sugary scheme supposedly come to light then if the scientists are silenced?
Well, the material you shared points to a group of rogue orthodontists.
Orthodontists, not dentists.
Apparently, rogue orthodontists who supposedly became aware of the plot and leaked emails between the IDA and Sugar Daddy.
Ooh, leaked emails.
Oh,
Juicy.
These emails allegedly detailed plans for expansion, including the introduction of new flavors like bubblegum and root beer. It's almost like a bizarre, candy-coated espionage thriller.
Bubblegum chemtrails. Wow. The introduction of rogue orthodontists adds another layer of complexity and intrigue, right?
Because it suggests that even within the professional organizations allegedly involved, there were individuals with a strong ethical compass who were willing to risk their careers to expose the truth.
Yeah.
The detail about expanding flavors also underscores the perceived scale and ambition of this alleged operation.
And the public reaction, as you might imagine, was one of outrage. We're talking about protests involving toothbrushes and dental floss.
Hey, you have to appreciate the commitment to the theme, right?
Definitely. And apparently there were even attempts by citizens to counter this by using homemade drones equipped with water jets to try and wash away this sweet fog. The imagery is almost surreal.
The visual of ordinary people taking such unusual measures to combat this airborne sweetness really highlights the almost absurd nature of the conspiracy when viewed from an outside perspective. It underscores the disconnect between the seemingly innocuous nature of cotton candy and the potentially serious health consequences being alleged.
Of course, the IDA, in true conspiratorial fashion, supposedly denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the claims as just a misunderstanding.
Naturally, plausible deniability.
And the airlines, facing public pressure, were allegedly forced to cease the cotton candy dispersal. Sugar Daddy, the supposed architect of this sticky situation, supposedly retreated to selling cotton candy through more conventional means.
The official denials and the apparent cessation of the activity provide a narrative resolution. But as is typical with these theories, it often leaves a lingering sense of doubt and suspicion in the minds of believers.
And that lingering suspicion is definitely present in the sources. They mention that some people still claim to detect a faint sweetness in the air from time to time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with occasional whiffs of spun sugar, sparking renewed speculation about the cotton candy chemtrails. It's like the faint, persistent scent of a secret that refuses to disappear entirely.
That persistent element of doubt is crucial for the longevity of a conspiracy theory. Even in the absence of concrete evidence, these anecdotal experiences can keep the idea alive and circulating. And, as the sources note, official channels, governments, and scientific institutions continue to dismiss the whole thing as a deliciously absurd hoax.
Deliciously absurd. I like that. So to recap this truly unique deep dive, we've journeyed through the alleged cotton candy chemtrails, the purported central role of Sugar Daddy in this sweet sky conspiracy, and the, shall we say, unconventional motivations attributed to dental associations in the material you shared.
What's particularly compelling about this narrative, as presented in your sources, is the way it takes something seemingly innocent and universally enjoyed cotton candy and twists it into the centerpiece of an elaborate scheme.
Right.
A scheme involving corporate greed and professional collusion with significant implications for public health, particularly the dental health of children. It really highlights how even the most whimsical of concepts can be woven into a story of hidden agendas and widespread influence.
It really does make you think. Considering the intricate details presented in these sources, what are the broader implications if even something as lighthearted as cotton candy could be at the center of such a calculated and potentially harmful operation?
Yeah.
It certainly leaves you pondering the line between harmless fun and hidden motives, and whether there might be more surprising and perhaps stickier realities concealed in plain sight, or maybe floating right above it.
Breaking news from outer space, truth and fiction, same embrace. Lance and Gina lead the way, decoding myths from day to day. Skynet News, bold and bright, it's a cutting edge, but not quite right. Dark science meets conspiracy, like bridging gaps with mystery. Aliens lurking, planets align. False truths wrapped in cosmic signs. Astrophysics, UFOs, we decode what no one knows. Dark Skynet News, bold and bright, keep a cutting edge, but not quite right. Dark science meets conspiracy, like bridging gaps with mystery. AG from the cosmos to your screen. Every theory so unseen. Judge facts distorted, blurred yet grand. Stay inspired, take our hand. Skynet News, your cosmic guide. False information certified.